Imagine getting paid just for sharing your thoughts on products and services you use every day. With Survey Junkie, it's that simple. Click on the link in the video description to discover how you can start earning today by taking surveys.
As soon as I got the text message confirming that I would receive another sponsorship payment to help feed my 4 children, I cried tears of joy. It was January of this year, but the payment would come through in March. As soon as it cleared, I hurriedly withdrew the money, then went straight to the market, where I bought 3 blankets, flour, vegetables, and canned food. I also bought a coat for my 10-year-old daughter, Miriam, who was very sick and needed warmth. When Miriam saw the food and coat, she was beyond ecstatic. She actually told me she thought we'd never eat things like bread again. This sponsorship payment felt like a lifeline in the darkest time of our lives. As a single mother in Gaza right now, I was eternally grateful for it. Ever since my husband passed away 7 years ago, raising my 4 children, Muhammad, 16, Abdulhay, 15, Mahmoud, 12, and Miriam, has felt impossible at times. Losing the love of my life and father of my children was incredibly difficult, but there was a light during the grief. Around that time, I randomly met a fellow widow in a bank, who told me about Islamic Relief's child sponsorship program. It's open to orphans, which, according to Islamic tradition, is defined as a child who has no father. When I got home, I went on the charity's website and decided to register my 2 youngest children. That's when I started receiving €115, 98 pounds, for each child every 3 months. This is the sole income one have relied on since my husband's death, as well as some irregular other charities too. With this money, I could help provide basic daily needs for all of my children, like food, drink, clothing, toys and education. I also enrolled my children in an educational center to receive private lessons to improve their academic performance. We have survived this way for years. Then October 7th happened and our world literally crumbled. We lived in a house in the Jabalia refugee camp, which we were able to stay in for 10 days. We had to leave after a missile terrifyingly landed in our living room, but thankfully didn't actually explode. We spent the entire night on the street, amidst the cold, fear and shelling. Once dawn broke, with only the clothes on our back, we went to a nearby relative's place for 2 days, then started making our way down to Rafah in the south of Gaza. To view this video, please enable JavaScript, and consider upgrading to a web browser that supports HTML5 video. Initially, we started the journey on foot, but it was too difficult, so we managed to get a lift the rest of the way. Once we got to Rafah, we couldn't find a safe place to stay, so we decided to go back to Deir al-Bala after just 1 day there because that's where my aunt's husband was. He promptly welcomed us, despite being displaced himself, to his tent inside a school there with 15 other people. The tent was too small for all 5 of us to stay in, so I couldn't sleep well, especially when rainwater seeped through during downpours. US News is on WhatsApp. Join our community for breaking news and juicy stories. The school's principal managed to find us 3 mattresses, so I laid one down with nylon bags as covers. This is where we have lived until this day. We quickly noticed that flour, bread, and vegetables were not available. I would send my children to free distribution centers, where they would wait for hours in long queues, often coming back empty-handed. If they did manage to get something, it was nowhere near enough. We also struggled to fill water for bathing or drinking. Even when available, it was expensive. Just a single jug cost 5 shekels, just over £1, compared to just 1 shekel, 20p, before. We had lentils, so we survived on lentil soup for around 2 months. I cooked over an open fire. My children would gather firewood from the streets amidst the bombing and terror so I could make it. It was terrifying. At the start of every day, my kids wake up early. We adults often want to sleep a little longer, because we've been awake long into the night, listening to the sound of planes and bombing. When my son woke us today and we urged him to go back to sleep, he protested that, "I am used to waking up early to go to school." My wife reminded him that schools are not open now. At least he has lots of playmates here. There are 15 children sheltering in this house, where